Welcome to the Engerati studio. We are located at European Utility Week, and this is the last day of the event. And with us in the studio today, we have Maikel from Omnetric, and we have Maikel from OEEX. And OEEX has just won the Young Innovators Award. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Do you want to give us a little bit of insight as to what your company brings to the table
Sure.
at this event?
We started OEEX 8 months ago, and it's based on previous researches from the universities. So both founders did a PhD on engineering about smart grids and marketplaces for retail customers. So the idea behind OEEX is to generate a marketplace for people like me and you to exchange the energy locally, to reduce the load on the transmission grids, reduce price of the energy, and enable a more efficient use of energy.
Fantastic. And Maikel, why sponsor this particular award? What's the background there?
Omnetric is a young startup in itself, in an industry that is traditionally very straightforward or conservative. Yeah. And we feel that in order to change this transformational journey for the utilities, we need young talent to bring innovative ideas, and we need to bring them in contact with the experience of the long-lasting engineers having maintained our networks for years. And the blend of the two will create the new utility business models. And for that reason, we wanted to attract young talent, and for that we need to speak to the young innovators. Hence our interest in sponsoring.
Perhaps give us a bit of insight, if I could ask you first, a bit of insight as to what is driving innovation within the industry?
I think the consumer is becoming more and more interested in producing their own clean energy. That's one driver. The other driver is, I think, that consumers want to control their costs and want to have a choice. Some countries already have that, others don't. And in that sense, the consumer will take over the momentum of the utilities, and no longer the utilities are in the driver's seat. Right. I wouldn't say the sharing economy like we know from Uber and others is already in the industry, but it's coming. Yeah. So an outside force will drive the utility to change their business models. Right. And that is happening. Whether it will be distributed energy, or it will be with electric vehicles, or a combination of the matter, it is all very exciting. And that's fun.
Absolutely, yes. Marco, let me speak to you about the next question. There's obviously a lot of challenges for the utility space for quite a few different role players. Where do you see yourself in this particular, your company in this particular space, and what can you bring to the table as far as innovation goes? And perhaps you can maybe just give us an idea of the challenges that perhaps you've had in entering or trying to enter the energy industry.
Sure. So the first thing I want to say that the request of local energy, like you buy your carrots around the house, it's growing really, and we measure that. So we see a need from the customers that nowadays they say, okay, the energy is not really coming just from the socket. I want to know where it's really coming from. Yes. And the first challenge we had was to bring transparency into the system. What we realized is that many laws that are in place are not how the system is being lived. So basically you will see a lot of kind of non-written rules in the system. I didn't expect that of something so infrastructural like energy. But actually there will be always a guy in certain entities which is applying the rules in a way that shape the market itself. So the first challenge for us was to bring transparency to the market, to understand it really, and to see what are the comparisons between the energy market and other markets we know. Because if people want to understand things, we have to explain them in the right way. We cannot tell, we cannot invent reasons that I cannot display, let's say, to my mom.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was the second challenge. Once we understand it, I have to bring it to everyone. I have to explain it super easy to my mom.
Yes,
And this is the second challenge we're facing now. We understood how it works.
Yeah.
And to bring it to the customer, we're now implementing profiles of the producers. We're implementing direct connection between producers and consumers to say, hey, energy is working like any other market.
Right.
There's a demand, yours. There's a supply.
Yeah.
And if they don't match, the prices go up. That's normal. So we explain you how it happens, and we help you to match supply and demand,
Yes.
so that you can save energy and see where the energy is coming from. Then the people say, okay, we buy already green energy, for instance. What's the difference now if we see on the system where the energy coming from my contract at the moment? And this is the third challenge, that in the past years there were a lot of green certificates for energy
Right.
that supposedly brought to the houses clean energy, but people just got this kind of stamp and couldn't understand really what is behind that. So they were kind of informed on something which they couldn't understand, and now we have to re-inform them from scratch. So it's twice the work, basically. Forget what you did until now and start again.
A lot of work.
I would like to add a fourth one, because I agree with all three.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find a shame in this European energy market at the moment is that whoever produces and has a surplus will get a fraction of the electricity price back. So you pay at a almost loss, whereas someone else is still paying the full price. By matching a low seller price with a high buyer price and coming to the middle point, you make both happy.
Yeah.
The consumer is paying less and the producer is receiving more.
Yeah.
That can be up to 50% savings for a producer.
Exactly.
And that makes an investment in renewable even more substantial or a better business case.
To incentivize it, really,
Yeah.
don't you? Yeah.
So that's what it works the system down, not just on the demand side, but also on the production side. And that's what I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Where to next?
Well, the first thing will be to create a real app which is very pleasant for the customers. So we're doing this now. What we have is kind of prototype. You can use it, but will be more understandable for people who are in the business.
Yeah.
Now we are reshaping it for everyone, for the man on the street. The second thing, we have some hardware that we're not an hardware producers. We will stay as software guys.
Right.
But at the moment, some hardware is missing. There are not enough appliances at home that can be connected to our system.
Right.
So what we're doing is to deliver this hardware, that just smart plugs, pretty cheap and easy to install. But we don't want people to have 1,000 systems at home.
Yeah.
And the issue is that we still don't know who will be the winner. Will be the Apple HomeKit, will be, I don't know, the RV home system, whatever.
Yeah.
So we will have to spend some time to find a common API to work on to simplify that, so that whatever the customer chooses, because it's nicer, smaller, it's cheaper, does more things, we fit to his needs and we don't force him to buy just the next thing, so that both on the software side and the hardware side he gets a very smooth experience that he can enjoy.
Yes.
And then if we realize this within the next 6 months, we can scale very fast.
Very exciting. A question to both of you. I don't know who would like to answer first, but what would be your recommendation to innovators trying to enter this particular space, this particular market? Perhaps we can start with you, Maikel.
That's a good question, thank you. I would say that for me, innovators should look at where is the money to be made and what of the system can you challenge, because it's about challenging the system. I don't think the innovators should follow a lot of Me Too scenarios. I think if you look in each of the countries, someone is already more or less starting to look at the business model like OEEX is doing. But OEEX is in that sense fast growing and has a good set of algorithms behind it. For me, I expect things to happen in storage. Maybe if you look at the industry in a way and to say very simple, it is a real-time market at the moment. Electricity needs to be submitted and transported and can't be stored. Imagine that you will have an eBay combination with UPS, basically supplying energy from one place to another. And then you have this concept of where you can buy a cubic meter of storage. Shore store, I have it, at least in my country, where you for excess stuff in your house, and consider that to be the storage facilities in the future. So you can park your excess electricity somewhere in a remote storage facility for whenever you need it. That type of business model, I think that's something where I would have innovators focus on.
There's plenty of opportunities from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And what would be your recommendation to other startups, other innovators?
Well, I will say three things. The first thing is to be curious, to look at what is possible to be done.
Yeah.
The second is to think in principles. So not think about just what it's been done until now, but what really makes sense. So what we say now from demand and production, it makes sense what we described right now, so that if there is energy, you should use it.
Yeah.
But people will tell you, oh, the laws are not there. So just think about the physical principle, and that will help you to guide you in the right direction, because if it makes sense, you can always find a way around to bring it to market. That brings to the third thing, that is, innovation is not invention, in my opinion. So once you have an idea, to patent it, to bring it to your fellows is nice. But if you keep it in a box and you say, oh, I invented something really nice, and you don't bring it to the market, then it's just for you.
Yes.
So don't fear to go out with that invention and bring it to the market, because there where you really can change things outside, not in your room when you invented it.
Yeah, exactly. To actually just get out there into the market,
Yes,
leave your
absolutely.
lab, and go and market your product and your solution. Yeah. My final question to both of you: what would be your recommendation to utilities? The idea of embracing innovation. What would you recommend to them?
Well, the first thing, I guess that to do innovation in-house, it's very difficult. So I will always say, try to invest money in startups without giving a big influence on them. So there was the first wave of utilities investing and say, we will work with you, that will be exclusive, and we will buy you, and maybe we shut you down at some point. That doesn't help. So if you get people from the outside and you invest, then you will have bigger chances to understand and to be part of the game later on. And if the startup is successful, you will earn money anyways.
Right.
The second thing is, don't try just to attract people based on your actual business model, but see what the people are asking for, and then look around for potential business models for that.
Yeah. Any recommendations from your side?
They're in line with what Marco just said. For me, the key element is that whoever controls the investment portfolio, because I think utilities should have an investment portfolio for new startups, should not have any ties to the existing business. Because you're closing down one shop and building a new one. And then you shouldn't have any conflict between the business models and any tension there. So someone responsible for the innovation in the utility should have a strategy focus, or should report directly to the board members, but should by no means report into the existing retail business model, because then it's a dead end.
Sound advice. Thank you so much for coming
you.
into the studio.
It's been a lovely event.
Hope you enjoyed the last day.
That was great,
couple
yeah.
hours.
Sure.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you very much to our viewers for joining us. There are other interviews that have taken place over the last 3 days. Do go and have a look at those. Thanks for joining.